Hello, my name is S.K. Williams, and today I would like to talk to you about holy living. I have done many foolish things in my life, and I'm certain anyone who listens to this has as well. It is part of the condition of life that we lead. We do not always make the right choices, and while some mistakes are understandable, in that they are simply mistakes based upon ignorance or uncertainty, sometimes we make decisions simply without thinking through the ramifications, or choices that we should not have made that we should or did know better. And I'm not even talking about the times where we know what we are doing is wrong, but we do them anyway. Those times certainly exist, but I'm talking about times where something seems right, simply because we haven't taken the time to really think about it. And yet, the effects of doing something foolish, whether it be done in defiance of what we know is right, or if it is done simply in a careless or foolish moment, nevertheless have a corrosive effect upon our lives, depending, of course, on the severity and the situation. Most people are rather forgiving, especially if they know you, of small slips and errors. And if people don't think that your intentions were malicious, they will often, nevertheless, be far more forgiving. But we still make these mistakes. And a large part of why is because we do not practice mindfulness. We do not pay attention to what we say or think or do. We often go through life just reacting to things, allowing conditioned responses and emotional stimuli to guide our decisions, and on occasion allowing reason to temper them, but only in a moment, without forethought or consideration. And this, I feel, is above even lust when it comes to causing sin and error and problems in our world. Doing things without thinking. Doing things without reason. We should always use wisdom and reason to determine what the situation we're in is and how to approach it. But all too often we ignore reason. We tend to dismiss it. And yet, the Bible says wisdom is the principal thing, and that we should get wisdom with all we have in the book of Proverbs. Specifically, Proverbs 4:7. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting get understanding. Some modern Bible translations use the word insight, which I feel is not only an inappropriate translation, but not as impactful. And some use other words. Nevertheless, I'm going with the King James Version here. There are many verses in the Bible, and for that matter in other religious texts like the Quran, or the Tao, or Buddhist literature, that it tells us the value of wisdom. There seems to be universal agreement amongst the world's religions on the value of wisdom, and even militant atheists who claim to reject all religion, whilst making, of course, their own secular ideals into a religion, will agree with this sentiment, although they claim not to agree since, according to their mythos, religion opposes wisdom. This is, of course, not the truth, as you can tell. And yet, in spite of this universal or near universal agreement on the value of wisdom. Very few of us take the time to try and build it up. Very few of us go through mindfulness training. Very few of us meditate upon what we have done. Very few of us contemplate the mysteries of the world or stop and think before we speak. I'm not saying that we must do this every single time with every single arrangement and every single event. Indeed, it would be impractical or even impossible to do so sometimes. Sometimes you must respond right away, and you don't have time to reflect, but if you spend time in contemplation, in prayer, and in meditation before those sorts of events occur, then you will be in a mental habit of saying and doing the right thing to begin with. You will not be perfect, and there will be situations in which you make a mistake, and even situations to which you have not prepared for. This is life, after all, and much can happen, but while I'm not promising perfection, while I'm not saying this will solve all problems, while I'm not saying you won't make mistakes, if you practice wisdom through mental exercises, if you rehearse things to say, think about situations, contemplate your own past actions and what you could have done differently, if you think and attempt to understand, if you build upon the morality as taught, to love one's neighbor as oneself, to care for the poor, the weak, the sick, the lonely, if you can try to understand how others feel and truly listen to their concerns, then your life will be easier. Not easy. Things will still happen. You will still suffer calamities and disasters, and bad things will still, of course, occur. Even through no fault of your own, these things happen. You will still slip and fumble. You will still say the wrong thing occasionally. For that matter, even stopping to think about the right thing to say will not always produce the right results. Sometimes, even when you try to say the right thing, the wrong thing will come out, and for that matter, sometimes when you're trying to say the right thing, you will say exactly what you mean and convey it perfectly, but it will not be what the other party needed to hear. You will not be perfect. But by practicing wisdom, thinking back upon your experiences, analyzing them, meditating upon them, practicing in your head other ways this could have been, not to the point where you're obsessed on the past and hold yourself to regret, but in a useful, practical way in which you try and improve yourself. And if you go through mental exercises, creating scenarios in your mind, for example, to which you can rehearse, you will find that more and more it will be easier to say kind words, and more it will be easier to refrain from instantaneously saying something that may be foolish, and more you will be able to avoid the problems that are caused by loose words, or the hurt you cause either by saying the wrong thing, speaking out of turn, speaking words that are unkind or careless, or you will avoid also the difficulties in ignoring others when they need help. It will make you a better person if you contemplate, if you think about wisdom, if you try to apply that which is known. And do not be afraid of study and learning new things. Believe it or not, learning new things helps broaden your perspective. Reading literature can help, especially good literature. Even if it's a book you don't like or disagree with on a fundamental level, you can gain from it a broader perspective. For example, I oppose the philosophy of Ayn Rand and her lionization of selfishness, but I have read Atlas Shrugged. I have read Anthem. I've read a summary of The Fountainhead. I didn't read The Fountainhead, but I at least read the summary. And reading these stories really gives insight into how she thought the world worked and how she thought the world ought to work. Learning that helps me to broaden my own perspective, to make it larger, so that I can consider things I perhaps never would have before, so that even if it doesn't automatically come to mind, the fact that my mind has been given over to trying to understand others will alone help me understand new situations that come up, and perhaps something Ayn Rand said or believed in will come in handy in understanding someone else's point of view. And even if it doesn't, the mere exercise of reading someone else's point of view in a safe and controlled manner, like reading a book, will help me understand where others are coming from, even if they too do not share Ayn Rand's beliefs, and yet differ from my own as well. So I encourage you to read more books, both fiction and non, on a range of topics. Even topics that don't interest you, at least at first, I would recommend reading. For reading those books about topics you may not be interested in may awaken in you an interest you didn't know you had. But even if that is not the case, even if you never develop an interest, you will be able to talk, at least at a basic level, to those that are, and at the same time, you will know more about certain things which may help you in life. And, in a broader sense, learning to think about other topics conditions you to be able to open your mind to new experiences and new things and new ways of thinking. It benefits you, even in just conditioning you to be able to focus on that which you do not know yet, so that you learn to settle and listen and absorb new things. And again, your perspective is broadened. Thus, I encourage you to read more, to study more, to learn more. But also to listen, and be careful with what you learn, and do not speak out of turn, do not try and speak about things you do not know or understand. Be careful when you speak. Speak only about that which you know and that which you can confirm. Speak only of wisdom and truth. Speak only that which you truly do understand. For having no knowledge of something means that those who do know it will not be deceived when you start speaking, and even those who don't know something, or at best have a superficial knowledge, will know when you're faking it. Be wise, and be kind to others. That is the purpose of this talk today. To be wise, to speak wisely, and to engage in wisdom. And if you do so, to also engage in kindness and courtesy. I haven't much else to say, so I shall sign off now. Thank you. God bless. And goodbye.